Welcome back to the deep dive. It's really good to have you with us today. Usually when we sit down at these microphones, we have a specific book or maybe a set of academic articles in front of us.
Right, usually trying to distill a theory or some big business concept.
Exactly. But today we're doing something a little different. We are looking at a person, or I guess more accurately, we are looking at the construction of a person.
It's almost a bit of an architectural study, isn't it?
That is the perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
We have this massive stack of documents here. Biographical notes, housing records, discographies, release schedules that outline the life and the career of Demetri Pierce.
Though you probably know him better by his artistic handle.
Right, Rods.Wave.
Mm.
And if you follow the music scene at all, you certainly know the name. But the mission of this deep dive isn't to just review his songs. If you want to hear the music, I mean, you can go stream it right now. Our job today is to look at the blueprint.
Exactly. We're asking a structural question here. How do you get from point A to point B? How does a very specific set of environmental variables, geography, family dynamics, trauma, and then stability, how do they combine to create the artist we see today?
And we really need to be clear about that word today. Context is everything for this one, because today is Thursday, February 26, 2026.
Which is a crucial date to keep in mind.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the roadmap we have sitting right in front of us, we are standing on the precipice of a massive event. Starting next month, March 2026, Rods.Wave is initiating a content rollout that is, frankly, it's staggering in its volume.
It's unheard of, really.
So before that floodgate opens, we wanted to pause. We wanted to understand the reservoir, We want to figure out where all of this is coming from.
And to do that, you have to go back to the foundation. You really have to go back to the Bronx.
Let's start exactly there. The documents place his origin story firmly in the Bronx, New York. He was born there and spent the first 5 years of his life absorbing that specific environment. Now, we often hear the Bronx described in pop culture as this place that builds grit. Is that what we're looking at here?
I think we need to look at it through a slightly different lens, a developmental one. You're talking about the years between birth and age 5. In psychology, that is the window of absolute peak neuroplasticity. Your brain is literally wiring itself based on the sensory input around you.
So it's not just about him remembering the neighborhood.
No, it's much deeper than memory. It's physiological. If you are raising a child in the Bronx, their nervous system is adapting to high density, high volume, and a very fast tempo. The sheer urgency of New York City sets a baseline rhythm for how you process information.
Even if he moved away later.
Exactly. Even if you move, that initial wiring, that constant alertness, is baked in from the start.
It sets the idle speed of the engine, essentially.
That's a great analogy. But we also have to look at the microenvironment, right? Not just the city, but the family unit itself. His parents met back in 2005, and by the time they hit their stride, they had built a very full house. They had children born in 2008, 2009, and 2012, plus an older sibling.
So we're talking about 4 kids. That is a highly kinetic household. That is a lot of personalities, a lot of noise, and a lot of energy confined in a New York living space.
Precisely. It's a high-pressure system. But as we see in the timeline, high-pressure systems eventually shift. And the documents we have highlight the year 2016 in bold.
Right, the disruption.
The divorce. The notes describe it as the culmination of years of ups and downs. Now, statistically, we know divorce is a major stressor for any child. It creates instability. But in this specific narrative, the divorce acts as a catalyst for movement. It is the mechanism that essentially forces the story out of New York.
This is what the outline calls the Great Shift. The mother moves from the Bronx down to Raleigh, North Carolina. The father stays in New York. And that isn't just a change of address. That is a complete sensory overhaul.
Oh, it's a culture shock of the highest order. You are going from vertical living concrete, subways, shared walls, just constant motion to the horizontal sprawl of the South. The air literally feels different. The passage of time feels different. And for a young mind, that contrast is jarring. You go from a place where everything is loud to a place where suddenly there is just silence.
And the transition wasn't instantaneous for everyone, right?
Yeah.
The notes mention a specific, almost cinematic date, December 31st, 2017, New Year's Eve.
The retrieval mission. The mother returns to New York to get the youngest child to bring him down to Raleigh. Eventually, she gains primary custody of all 4 children. But I want you to really think about that specific window of time, that transition period where the family is physically split between 2 states.
You're basically straddling 2 worlds.
You are in a liminal space. You aren't fully a New Yorker anymore, but you certainly aren't a Southerner yet. And I think that outsider status is incredibly important for an artist. When you don't fully belong to an environment yet, you have to observe it. You become a watcher. You have to analyze the rules of this new place because you don't know them instinctively.
That makes a lot of sense. You're forced to become analytical just to survive socially.
Exactly. And that analytical skill eventually gets turned inward. It gets pointed toward the art.
So he lands in North Carolina. And this brings us to the second major part of our deep dive stability. I was really struck by how detailed the housing records are in our source material. It tracks their living situations with a surprising amount of precision.
It really does. And it tracks them as a clear progression. It's almost like a video game where you're steadily leveling up your base.
Let's look at the actual timeline. July 21, 2019, the move to Smithfield, North Carolina. The notes specifically mentioned that this was their first actual house, not a townhouse.
Why do you think that distinction stands out so much?
Well, from a practical standpoint, if you're a creative kid trying to make music, a townhouse is a nightmare. Shared walls mean you just can't make noise. A standalone house means you can record, you can be loud. But psychologically, I think it means something a lot deeper.
It means roots.
Yes.
A townhouse or an apartment often feels transient. It feels like a stopping point on the way to somewhere else. A standalone house implies, hey, we are staying. It implies a claim on the land. It provides a real psychological safety net.
And they didn't stop there.
Yeah.
Less than 2 years later, May 21, 2021, they move again.
Bigger, better, moving into the current home.
So what we are seeing here is a deliberate trajectory. The family started with the massive disruption of the divorce and the displacement from New York, but they spent the next 5 years aggressively building stability.
And that is absolutely crucial to understand. We often romanticize the starving artist or the artist living in constant chaos. But the reality is, to produce the level of work Rods.Wave is about to drop, you need infrastructure. You need a safe harbor. You cannot plan a 2-year album rollout if you don't even know where you're sleeping next month.
You need a safe harbor to build the ship.
Exactly. And speaking of the shipbuilder, or I guess the admiral of this fleet, we have to talk about the mother.
Dr. Natasha Guess.
This is the variable that changes the entire equation for him. In many artist biographies, the parents are sort of these background figures. But here, she is front and center.
She is a force. Let's look at her professional life. She is the creator and founder of Guess Compliance Consulting, LLC. And she has a media presence, too. She hosts the podcast called Guess What? Compliance Can Be Simple.
I really love that title, but let's dig into that word for a second. Compliance.
It sounds dry. It sounds like a bunch of rules.
It sounds totally rigid to the layperson, but in the business world, compliance isn't about restriction at all. It's about systems. It's about understanding a highly complex framework, navigating the regulations, and building a structure that actually allows you to operate successfully within those rules.
It's architectural thinking.
It is. And if you grow up in a house where your mother is a consultant, where she is literally breaking down complex systems for corporate clients, you absorb that way of thinking. You learn that success isn't just about having passion, it's about process.
And there's the media aspect, too, with the podcast.
Right. Rods.Wave grew up seeing his mother speak into a microphone with total authority. He saw her editing. He saw her treating her voice as a professional tool. That creates a level of comfort. The microphone isn't some scary foreign object you have to conquer. It's just part of the family business.
So when we see Rods.Wave later, treating his music career with this intense, structured strategic planning, he's basically acting as the CEO of his own artistry. He's taking those Guess compliance principles and applying them to hip-hop.
I think that is exactly what is happening here. He isn't just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. He is executing a compliance strategy for his own brand.
Okay, so we have the foundation laid out. The Bronx energy, the North Carolina space, and the matriarchal lesson in systems and compliance. Now, let's look at the result. Let's look at the actual music.
The output.
Right. We are in February 2026 right now, but let's rewind to what the notes call the musical lab phase.
Yeah.
This starts around June 2024.
Every artist has this phase. It's the R&D department.
He started on BandLab. And for those who don't know, BandLab is essentially a digital audio workstation that runs in your phone or your browser. It's very accessible, very grassroots.
It's the modern equivalent of the GarageBand. Low stakes, high experimentation.
His debut track on there was titled Just Doing Me.
Which is just a fantastic title for a first attempt. It's a declaration of independence. It's almost a little defensive, like I'm not trying to be anyone else, I'm just figuring out who I am.
And he figured it out by trying literally everything. I mean, look at the genre versatility in just the first few months of his career. In July 2024, he drops Help Me on My Journey.
A gospel record.
Dedicated to Jesus and God.
That is incredibly vulnerable for a young male artist. In the hip-hop space especially, vulnerability is a massive risk. But he took it. He showed his spiritual roots right out of the gate.
But then, almost like whiplash, August 2024 hits. He releases Haters and Corvette.
And there is the pivot. That's the Bronx energy surfacing, the braggadocio, the
Right.
flex. He's trying on the costume of the confident rapper just to see how it fits.
And then September, October roll around and he swings back again. He drops Love at First Sight and My Love for You. We get R&B themes. We get romance.
So think about that. In the span of 4 months, June to October 2024, he covers independence, gospel, materialism, and romance. He was auditioning identities. He was stretching the canvas to see exactly how wide it could go.
But apparently he decided the canvas could hold it all. Because in November 2024, we see a major shift in infrastructure.
The pivot to professionalism.
Yes. The music moves off of BandLab and onto major streaming platforms. He drops the Love Songs EP, which is 3 songs.
This is where the hobby dies and the career truly begins. This is the Dr. Guess influence kicking into high gear. You don't move to major distribution unless you are ready to be judged by the open market. It signifies a total shift in intent. He stopped playing around and he started building the business.
Which brings us right back to today, February 26, 2026. We are standing at the foot of the mountain he has spent the last 2 years building.
And let me tell you, it is a steep mountain.
I have the release schedule here for 2026 and 2027. And honestly, it's exhausting just looking at it. It is so aggressive.
It's military in its precision.
Walk us through what is about to happen starting next month.
Okay, so March 2026, this is the warm-up. The singles start dropping. He's priming the algorithm, getting the listeners ready for the flood.
And April hits.
An EP drops, a quick jab to keep the momentum going.
Then May.
The haymaker. 15-song mixtape.
Let's just pause there for a second. An EP in April and a 15-song tape in May. That is an incredible amount of content in a 60-day window.
It is. But in the streaming era, attention is the only currency that matters. If you go away for 6 months, you disappear. He is flooding the zone. He is ensuring that every single time you open your app, there is something new from Rods.Wave.
He takes a breath in June and July, but then August brings another EP.
Followed immediately by a second mixtape in September. The notes say this one is a birthday celebration.
So in 2026 alone, we are talking about 2 EPs and 2 full-length mixtapes, plus all the singles. That is a volume of work that most established veteran artists wouldn't even attempt.
It's the work ethic of someone who feels they have catch-up to play, or maybe someone who just has an overflowing well of creativity. But what impresses me even more isn't the sheer volume of 2026, it's the foresight of 2027.
This is where the compliance consulting gene really shows off. I mean, who plans their specific album release dates 18 months in advance?
Someone who isn't relying on inspiration to strike. Someone who relies entirely on discipline. Look at the dates on that sheet. They are incredibly specific.
March 16th, 2027.
The album release. Wait, is the pain over?
18 songs on that one.
That title just stops me in my tracks. Hey, is the pain over?
It implies a massive narrative arc. If you look back at the divorce in 2016, the displacement, the struggle to find that housing stability in North Carolina, this album feels like the closing of a chapter. It feels like he's finally processing the trauma through the art.
And then later that same year, September 15th, 2027.
The self-titled album, Demetri.
13 songs.
Naming an album after yourself is always a massive statement. It usually signifies, hey, this is the definitive version of me. If the March album is about the pain, the September album is about the person. It's the arrival. It's him planting his flag and saying, I am here.
2 full studio albums in 1 calendar year, and that's on top of the absolute flood of content in 2026. It reminds me of the pacing we saw from Tupac in '96.
Yeah.
Just this relentless, non-stop output. It is relentless. But unlike Tupac, who was operating in a highly chaotic, turbulent environment, Rods.Wave is operating from that base of stability in Smithfield. He has the systems in place. He has the plan. He isn't reacting to the world. He is dictating the schedule to the world.
So let's zoom out for a minute. What does this all mean for you, the listener? Why should you care about his housing records or what his mother does for a living?
Because art doesn't exist in a vacuum. When you listen to the tracks that drop next month or that massive album in 2027, you are hearing the synthesis of all these different factors.
You hear the Bronx.
You hear the urgency and the hustle of those first 5 formative years.
You hear the transition.
The vulnerability of the divorce, the outsider perspective of that move down to the South.
You hear the stability.
The peace found in that house in Smithfield that finally gave him the quiet he needed to sit down and record.
And you hear the mother.
The discipline, the audaciousness to say, I am going to plan my life 2 years in advance and I'm going to execute it perfectly.
It transforms the music from just being a playlist you shuffle through into being a living biography.
Exactly. And the unique thing we are doing here today is that we are analyzing it before it even happens. Usually we look back at artists 10 years later and say, oh, look at how smart they were to do that. We are looking at the plan in real time.
We are documenting the launch sequence.
If he executes this, and given the family history of compliance and structure, I would absolutely bet on him executing it. We are going to look back at this conversation in 2028 and say, wow, the signs were all right there.
I want to leave you with a thought, though, a question to just chew on as you watch this massive rollout happen over the next year.
Right.
We often debate what makes great art. Is it trauma? Or is it peace?
The classic tortured artist versus the professional debate.
Right. Did Rods.Wave need the chaos of the Bronx and the pain of the divorce to give him something meaningful to say? Or did he need the boring, quiet stability of the North Carolina suburbs to actually give him the time and space to say it?
That is the eternal question. I think the answer is right in the timeline we just reviewed. You need the trauma to load the gun, but you need the peace to aim it.
That is a powerful image. You need the trauma to load the gun, but the peace to aim it. Rods.Wave seems to have somehow found both.
He certainly has.
Keep your eyes on the charts next month. The rollout officially begins. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Take care, everyone.